Hello class, here's another example that I hope helps you with methods. I've called it methods 2. This one is going to act somewhat like a point of sale terminal. We're going to specify in main here, look at we've got up in main. We've got a constant called disk rate. I've used the final keyword to make that a constant. And notice how I've named the constant with uppercase with individual words separated by underscores. That's the convention for naming constants in Java and other programming languages as well, by the way. So here we have a 25% discount. Now I've got a double for the price and an int for the quantity. Now all of those could have been keyboard inputs, but I wanted to save screen real estate, so I hard-coded those in. Now, we're going to use a method called purchase, which is going to manage the purchase of 4 items at this price and that discount rate. So I'm going to pass all 3 values to the purchase, to a method called purchase. You notice we've got price, quantity, and discount rate. We're passing all 3 values to it as arguments. And it's going to return something into a variable called total. Well, let's just think about the method for a minute called purchase. Here it is down here below. Remember, you put your methods outside of main, but in the same file as the class. Just show you that there's the closing brace for the class down there. Okay, now I decided to call it purchase, and I could have done this in a number of different ways, but I decided what I would do is I would have this method work out the subtotal and the amount of the discount and print both of those, but return the total back to main. Now, it could have been done in other ways, but I decided to go that way. So let's take a look. First of all, I work out the subtotal by multiplying the price times the quantity, and then I get the discount by multiplying the subtotal by the discount, and then we get the total by subtraction. And then I've got printf. I'm using printf and %.2f to show 2 decimal places like currency for the subtotal, and also to show the amount of the discount here. But then we're going to return the total. Now I could very well have put the print for the total down here as well. And in that case, I would have made this a void, not a double type method. Instead of returning a double, I would have made it type void had I done that. But I wanted to make it return a value, and so I am going to return the total back to main. So let's go back up and look at where we call this method in main. Remember, down here, this is just the definition of the method. This code doesn't run until you make it run in some other method. In this case, we're going to run it inside main. And we run it by calling it by name, purchase, give it those 3 values that we've entered up here, and it does all of this work. It's going to print out a couple of lines, and then it's going to return the total back into a variable, which I also called total here. Now that could be a little bit confusing, using the same variable name in 2 different methods. Well, they're actually individual locations in memory. This total is a different place in memory from this total. Maybe it would have been better if I used a different variable name. Just as long as you understand that each method has a space called its scope in which variables are visible. And a variable is visible inside the method in which it is declared. So this variable is only visible here. This one is only visible down in purchase. So when this does its job and returns the total, we're going to catch it. Remember, that's what you have to do. When a method returns a value, you've got to catch it in a variable of the right type. Or in some way, you've got to handle it back in main. And I'm catching it in a variable of type double, as you can see here. And then I'm going to print it out up here. So when we run this thing, there's no user inputs in this one at all. The output looks like this. And as you can see, those last 2 numbers do add up to 996, so it looks like the math is correct there. Now, as I said, I could very well have done this slightly differently. Just to give that a try, what I'll do is I'll just modify that and make it void. And then when I call this method up here, I don't have to catch a return value, because if I call it and it's a void method, it's not going to return anything. But then I'll take this line and remove it from here. And I'll put it right here. And of course, I won't need the return statement because this is going to be a void method now. So I'll do the printing down inside the method called purchase instead. It just depends on what your needs are. If I wanted to do more math with that variable that I got from the total, like maybe that was just part of an order, I wanted to add another total onto it, this approach would not work. But if I run this, I think this actually runs with exactly the same output with a slightly different methodology, slightly different technique. Just depends on what your needs or what the demands of the assignment are. Because this method is now defined as void, doesn't return a value, so I just have to call it by name up here. Hope that helps.